neutral density filters, or more commonly referred to as ND filters. Their purpose is to reduce the amount of light entering the camera without affecting the colors, contrast, or sharpness of the image. They're like sunglasses for our lens, but not fancy sunglasses that change the color of things, hence the word neutral. While ND filters are labeled in many ways, the most common is the ND number, often written as ND2, ND4, 8, and so on. An ND2 filter allows half of all light through it. An ND4 filter allows a fourth of all the light through it. And an ND8 allows an eighth of all the light to pass through, and so on. As we can see in this chart, every ND stop cuts the amount of light in half from the previous ND stop. And for every ND stop, light is reduced by one f-stop on our aperture. Meaning if we add an ND4, that will reduce the light by 2 stops. 1, 2, we see the image gets much darker. But what that does is allows us to open our aperture by 2 stops. From 5.6, 1, 2 to 2.8. And we see there, we have the exact same exposure, but a slightly shallower depth of field. Or if the shutter speed is set to 250, we can lower it to 60 to get the same exposure. Now, if we adjust our ND filter by 2 stops, we can see it gets substantially darker, and based on the flashing exposure meter, we know that it is underexposed. But what this allows us to do is adjust our shutter speed from 250 down 2 stops to 60, which once again gives us that same good exposure, and in this case, we are also now double our frame rate in accordance with the 180-degree shutter rule. Now, you may have noticed that as I adjusted the shutter speed, I went down more than 2 settings. We'll see that from 250 it goes to 200, 160, and 125. However, each of these settings does not count as a full stop. A full stop is double if you're going up, or half if you're going down, which is why in this case going from 250 down to 125 counts as 1 stop, and from 125 down to 60 as another stop. ND filters are most useful in bright conditions when we want to have a shallow depth of field, match our shutter speed to the frame rate, or to capture motion blur. But we're unable to do so because the light, most often the sun, is too bright and will cause the footage or the photos to be overexposed. And if we change the settings to get good exposure, we lose the desired effect. For example, we want a shallow depth of field to separate our subject from the background, but it's too bright and we already have the ISO as low as it can go. So we either use a really high shutter speed, which can make the footage look choppy, or we use a higher aperture, but this means we lose that shallow depth of field. So by adding an ND filter, which cuts down the amount of light, it allows us to lower the aperture or the shutter speed to achieve the look we want without overexposing the footage. For photographers, this affects the shutter speed, the best example being moving water. If we raise the shutter speed to get good exposure, the motion blur is lost. But with an ND filter added, we can lower the shutter speed and capture the motion blur while still properly exposing the image, giving the water that soft blur.